of the biggest lessons we're going to be learning collectively over the next year and a half is that clout comes at a cost. Lunar nodes, which aren't a planet but rather a mathematical marker in the sky, are going to be moving into Leo and Aquarius on June 26, 2026. Because the nodes also determine where the eclipses will be happening, expect to see major endings and beginnings in the area of your chart that Leo and Aquarius rule. Let's think of the North Node as a magnet. It represents what society is being increasingly pulled toward. It has a lot of intensity to it. It essentially becomes a North Star guiding us towards our evolution. And while the South Node isn't inherently bad, it can represent our comfort zone and what we've already conquered collectively and what we need to progress from. So this is an indicator that with the South Node moving into Leo, we've been here before. This is not our first rodeo. Leo governs performance, celebrity, fame, recognition, ego, identity, to be seen and celebrated. We've all become very familiar with the concept of being an influencer or simply becoming famous online if we don't want to work anymore, or even being compelled towards outrageous, rage-baiting content that has a lot of shock value. Aquarius, on the other hand, values systems rather than being the star of the show. It governs communities, audiences, demographics, movements, innovation, social networking, valuing something larger than yourself and finding a sense of belonging in people that share similar ideologies to you rather than being a sole conductor. So this transition in the sky is essentially shifting our attention from individual personalities to collective ecosystems. It's no longer who gets famous, but rather how someone gets famous to begin with, who profits from it, who controls it, who pays the price. Leo is the celebrity, Aquarius is the audience, a mixed crowd of people that love and hate you, and seeing this axis illuminated in the sky is going to tilt and disrupt that dynamic to introduce humanity to new uncharted territory. Now, the last time we had this configuration was in 2008 and 2009. Reality television was a fairly new concept. Media and press surrounding celebrities was particularly brutal, and this time brought some of the most iconic pop culture moments. Kanye West interrupting Taylor Swift at the VMAs, Britney Spears' rebellion era after crashing out and shaving her head, Barack Obama's first presidential term, ordinary everyday people having viral moments and then ending up on Ellen, Beyonce releasing Single Ladies, YouTube creators suddenly becoming household names like Fred Figglehorn, Smosh, and Niga Higa, and of course Michael Jackson's death, just to name a few. To put things into perspective, we already had the reversal of this transit back in 2017 and 2018. The internet kept its charm of rewarding spectacle, but this time it was for better or for worse. Traditionally, the Yodel Boy would have become a viral moment at any point in the internet, but the risk of this energy being uncontained and unregulated birthed what we now call cancel culture. Think the devastation of TanaCon, for example. That was a decision rooted in ego as opportunity, which led to a very public and very consequential downfall. Logan Paul filming the suicide forest in Japan in an attempt to increase his views using shock value, prioritizing numbers over ethics, and Lil Tay, a literal child, gaining notoriety for flexing wealth and profanity, and ultimately becoming a symbol of how virality can really blur the lines between exploitation and entertainment, because that established incentive structure is going to begin to transform. In the era of $100,000 influencer campaigns, streamers getting paid more than rappers, the ability to buy a Lambo after one major sacrificial decision, you would think that those with money, exposure, influence are the ones that have the power. But if your audience is the one keeping the lights on, how powerful are you really if one day everyone gets to decide to wake up and determine whether your time is up on any given day? Privacy becomes a major luxury now because it's being sacrificed for economic survival. One of the perks of monetizing yourself online was that you got to be your own boss. You didn't have to do anything you didn't want to do. You could work on your own time, make your own schedule. You didn't have to answer to anyone but yourself. It was easy. But the internet economy and the court of public opinion becomes a machine in and of itself. You are now required to answer to it, otherwise your status of public favorability is now at risk. Your audience is your boss, your sponsors are your boss. You are the brand, so you're essentially working all of the time, especially because you're always being watched, even when you're not on camera. And you might not have to report back to a literal boss, but you have to work with the machine of the algorithm and social politics to maintain your position. This begs the question of, at what points does your audience stop supporting you and start possessing you? When does building a personal brand become selling access to yourself? 5 million followers against one person is never going to be a fair fight, regardless of how much money that person has. The creators who thrive now won't necessarily be the loudest, but they'll be the ones whose work is rooted in true, genuine passion rather than constant optimization. Recognition certainly isn't going anywhere, but it will be more difficult to manufacture. Those who feel inauthentic will not be able to convert nearly as well anymore. Similarly, those who rise to the top seemingly so effortlessly will do so because their consistently unrewarded track record up until this point speaks for them. It does the work for them. All of this is to say that over the next 2 years, especially during eclipse season, we're going to see major shifts in the relationships between careers, audiences, celebrities, and corporations. Expect an expanding conversation around creator rights, platform accountability, fame management, monetization regulators, freedom of speech censorship, intellectual property, privacy laws, legal protections, especially for minors who essentially start providing for their entire family, child stars as well. The Leo and Aquarius axis has always carried two truths at the same time, that being that life in many ways is a performance. We all play our roles to some degree, but life also begins the moment you stop performing for approval. These points are not opposite, but rather ask us to live and find balance between the two as we enter into this new chapter. And on the other hand, everybody has the chance to become famous now. And to that, I would ask, is the version of you that gets the most attention able to sit with themselves alone and still feel fulfilled without that spotlight? And if everybody can be a main character in their own right, who are we actually performing for?